Thailand is situated in the Southeast Asia, bordering to Myanmar, Laos, PDR, Cambodia, and Malaysia in the south. Thailand has the population of 63 million now. The majority of the Thai people are Buddhist, but in the north, which is a hilly area, we have a Thai population which has been moving from neighboring countries who now have troubles with the economic and political problems. This is Thailand.
From its windswept beaches to its tropical rainforests, with its rich cultural history, rare natural beauty, and religious traditions, Thailand is facing the challenge of maintaining phenomenal family planning successes while facing the growing threat of HIV/AIDS. Thailand struggles to decriminalize abortion and overcome funding shortfalls. Thailand is in need of help.
Behind me here is a village and a house of hill tribe people. Back some 40 years ago, after the safe delivery, the mother was given her breastfeeding to the newborn child. When the doctors visited her again next morning, he found the new mother was crying. So we asked, why you were crying? I'm crying because I was thinking of how do we going to feed them? Because I have already have 5 children in the family and we are so poor. That answer struck the doctor, and then after a few years, the Planned Parenthood Association of Thailand was founded. That was in 1970.
Now, 36 years later, Thailand, with its growing youth population and burgeoning migrant communities, struggles to extend to all of its citizens the most basic of human rights, the right to be able to plan the size and spacing of one's own family.
People living with HIV and AIDS and migrants are still great, and it is estimated that there are about 1 million people living with HIV and AIDS.
When to say yes and how to say no. And the girls usually are the ones who say, look.
They have difficulty coming, travel into the city to receive these services from government service providers.
ถ้าปล่อยไว้เหมือนสมัยโบราณกาล50 ปีย้อนหลังครอบครัวหนึ่งมีบุตร10 คน
If not for family planning 50 years ago, things would have been much worse off today. Think about what would have happened if the government did not have any sort of family planning done years ago. Things today would be much more different. Things today would be much harder for us. If not for family planning, things would be a lot harder for us today.
ก็ได้เรียนรู้หลายอย่างก็คือเราได้รู้ว่าการ
We should take time to think before deciding to have sexual intercourse, and family planning is important.
Abuse and violence against women are widespread and becoming exacerbated.
The people of Thailand believe strongly that reproductive health services must be offered to its urban centers, migrant communities, and to its geographically isolated ethnic groups, including the hill tribe populations.
Our first role was to campaign for family planning in Thailand because lots of marginalized people need to know about family planning, and they should have choice to be able to look after their well-being of their families.
The population growth rate is about 1%. Out of 63 million, 32 million are female. Women aged 15 to 49 are about 0.6%. And the contraceptive prevalence rate for women is 69.8% for modern method and 72.2% for any method.
What is the method of contraception that seems to be most popular here? Do women use IUDs? Do they use sterilization after they've had their one or two children?
For contraceptive prevalence, for the new model method, nowadays using is pills, oral pills. Yes, the second one is the injectable, and the third one is implant, and the fourth one is the interchanging devices. And for condom and other, etc.
We simply buy our own contraceptives from our very limited resources. And our government, because we've been leading NGOs in this field of family planning, so they're still trying to allocate some of the budget from the government to support our activities there. But when we about 1992, isn't it? When the Tom Yam Kung disease been spread around, starting from Thailand ourselves, then the government had to cut the budget down because of the economic crisis.
It is a good thing that the government has been implementing family planning, which not only relates to us as an individual, but relates to us globally. Buddha himself has already set many rules for family planning, which I have been telling you. However, besides Buddha, the government has also been administering a type of family planning. The government gives people, through this family planning, a way and a means to plan ahead for the future for not only themselves, but also their families.
Family planning is looked at as a population control. So being NGO like PPAT, we promote the choices. We told them, this is your choice. This is for your health. You must decide. We don't care so much how many children you like to have. You may exceed 2 children. If you feel happy, if you can afford, if you can take good care of your children. So let's think about it. And then if you need it, we can help you.
Even things such as gaining an education or nurturing a child would be difficult chores. The competition between people would become chaotic.
Deliveries attended by skilled attendants are about 85%. These statistics based on the UNFPA Global Reach indicators for Thailand.
We've been leading NGOs in this field of family planning, so they're still trying to allocate some of the budget from the government to support our activities there. Regarding the family planning services, one of the things that we should mention to you that in the government service unit settings, they normally ask a lot of questions, to fill out forms, those kind of, are you married, who was your name, who was your father's, your mother's, your address, whatever. And that's annoy young people who need contraceptives services, but again, they feel uneasy to answer those questions, so they normally come to the private clinics rather than to the government service unit.
ก็ทำให้เราได้มีความรู้ในเรื่องแบบเพศสัมพันธ์อะไรพวกนี้ค่ะ
I learned how to have safe intercourse in terms of prevention of unwanted pregnancy. so that I can help my friends solve the problem.
It's a fact that women of childbearing ages suffer a disproportionately high level of abuse and violence.
More than 5,000 cases were reported of sexual abuse and violence cases in 2004, and during January to May 2005, more than 2,000 cases were reported. Child and maternal health, especially among those living in mountainous area, still lack access to health care. 1.2 million Hill tribe population live in the country, and more than 120,000 refugees are registered. Most women delivered without attendance of skilled birth attendants or trained health personnel are those in the South Thailand or living in the hilly areas.
Thailand has been pursuing ambitious reproductive health goals for decades. Today, the Planned Parenthood organization, the Thai government, and many other NGOs, non-governmental agencies, are continuing to provide the family planning counseling, training, supplies, and support that reduce maternal deaths, infant mortality, and teenage pregnancies.
We believe strongly that reproductive health and rights is basic things that people, all the people around the world, not only the well-off people in the urban area, but also those marginalized. Simply because reproductive health and rights is a basic answer to the reproductive health problems that we are facing today.
Thailand, eventually, the amount of, because of the successful program in 1970s, 1980s, the amount of foreign assistance declined very quickly.
Thailand's foreign aid-dependent NGOs and its government are performing a delicate balancing act as they address severe funding shortfalls and operational restrictions. Moves to decriminalize abortion and efforts to stretch limited resources are made more difficult by the Bush administration's reimposing of the Reagan-era global gag rule. This dangerously restrictive policy denies U.S. international family planning assistance to groups providing, advocating, or educating their own people about abortion services.
Would you be able to get the amount for us of the amount of money that the U.S. was giving for contraceptives to Thailand? And the reason that I ask this is because the global gag rule in the U.S. with our supporters and activists is something that they get very angry about, and really when we're trying to work with Congress to hear examples from organizations such as Planned Parenthood Association of Thailand to hear what really the impact has been.
The Bush administration is in agreement with the most conservative elements in Thai society. The administration's reinstituting of the global gag rule has impacted not only NGOs, but could potentially influence governments that are considering legislation that would decriminalize abortion services and support a woman's right to choose. The Thai parliament is currently considering abortion rights legislation.
If we are talking only about health of the population, that would be a significant and crucial in pushing forward the law.
Still in Thailand, there are a multitude of conflicting voices on the topic of abortion.
It seems that a lot has been done to get the support of Buddhists in Thailand. Are there organizations that oppose, or is there opposition?
One thing is still controversial, is the abortion issue.
We charge for abortions?
Yes.
We do.
I said that earlier, yeah. But with a sliding scale, $40 is the maximum.
In Thailand, abortion is allowed if it is seriously endangered the health of the mother.
Abortion is illegal in Thailand.
It's legal.
Except for this criterion, and you particularly, your clinic has expanded the interpretation of that, is that what you're saying?
Which is good.
Our law hasn't been changed on abortion, which the existing law, women who seek for abortion is guilty, just like criminal.
มีการ
There is no need for abortion. That is not the way to go about things. Even taking medication that will lead to an abortion is bad. Buddha stated that if someone is to have an abortion, he or she will then become a murderer.
There are elements of Thai society that oppose abortion rights, yet the biggest threat to the liberalization of abortion regulations is restrictive funding.
Is that an appropriate strategy for Thailand? And if it's not, why is it not?
But it's almost impossible to ask people to remain abstinent. Not to mention about very active youth these days. It's useless. It's nonsense. Ridiculous.
So since last year, the Planned Parenthood Federation of America International PPFAI, which you will meet them with us, a number of family planning provider, NGOs in this field, and medical doctor, and I think Dr. Damrong is the chair of that drafting committee, and working with the Women Parliamentary Group. We have finished the draft of the reproductive health bill, and waiting for the good chance to submit to the parliament for consideration. And in the reproductive health bill, one component, one code that is the rights of people, especially women, to access to abortion services.
Are they actually arrested and prosecuted as criminals? Sometimes?
Clinics, like family planning clinics, are visited by police. And if the case are presented, if it's reported, the police must take charge.
It's important that organizations can have a free point of view and standpoint on various issues. And so I think in many organizations in Thailand, the issue on receiving funding becomes very difficult, funding from the U.S. government, because this kind of the conditions that some organizations may understand, some may not understand, becomes a whole complex issue, and how to comply becomes very different from other types of donors.
U.S. funding guidelines require that agencies receiving HIV/AIDS funds have an explicit policy opposing prostitution. The Bush administration also promotes the ABC method of fighting HIV/AIDS, which is abstinence, be faithful, and condoms use last. Rulings like these disproportionately impact vulnerable populations such as youths, indirect sex workers, and migrant workers.
There's no boundary in terms of information, news, and the people starting to change in their behavior. And now we are facing the fatal disease like HIV/AIDS.
In May 2002, encouraged by the extreme right wing in the U.S., the Bush administration pushed for language promoting sexual abstinence for adolescents instead of the comprehensive sex education.
People living with HIV and AIDS and migrants are still great, and it is estimated that there are about 1 million people living with HIV and AIDS in the country. For HIV and AIDS, the government has put more attention and efforts in making ARV available for people living with HIV and AIDS. Still, HIV and AIDS is a major challenge in Thailand. now that the behavior and social aspects has been changed. It is estimated that there are approximately 1 million people infected with HIV in Thailand. 700,000 are not aware of their HIV status. Sexual intercourse is the main transmission route of the infection, and HIV prevalence among men in 2004 increased, and it is expected that to have close linkage with sexual intercourse with indirect sex workers.
We do work with, the organization, the NCBAs, have to work with sex workers. And it's not an issue about promoting legalization or not. It's an issue about reproductive health.
Our projects and activities focused on promoting knowledge and understanding to encourage healthier sexual and reproductive health practices among various groups of population in Thailand and also in the neighboring countries.
Many of these women in Chiang Mai are, for the first time, receiving education on protecting themselves from the disease, other STDs, and from unwanted pregnancies.
I think training is important because of my work. I work as a masseuse and I'm poor like all of my friends. I've learned many things here. For example, I learned about HIV infections and contraception.
Reducing harm is important meanwhile. And so if that becomes a policy, another condition, that I think that becomes very another step towards controlling.
We worked to promote knowledge about HIV and STIs infection with women working in entertainment places, small restaurants, bars, pubs, located as part of the community or at the border between Lao PDR and Thailand.
The government tried to stop prostitution. What happened was the prostitutes suffer more. So they're pushed underground and then they have to pay the bribe and they cannot access to medical services. I think the situation became worse and worse.
Go Fund, with all of their strengths, one of their weaknesses is their emphasis on numbers, that we have to report on how many people were reached with HIV messages and all that. So kind of, it kind of draws the attention of the project away from things like, follow-up on reproductive health issues and all that.
I learned that the use of condom is better than taking pills because pills do not prevent infections.
Thailand is offering reproductive health education in a variety of ways. The education process includes everything from a population-themed meal to peer training in school settings. In fact, youth training is critical. 11.7% of all HIV/AIDS cases are in the youth population. With unwanted pregnancies up, induced abortion with complications now account for 40% of all abortions. Once exposed to the basic concepts of reproductive health, the youth populations are better prepared to become responsible adults.
We work with and for young people. We've trained them to be peer educators, talking with their friends about adolescent sexual and reproductive health.
พอดีมีเพื่อนเข้ามาร่วมโครงการนี้ก่อนแล้วก็เพื่อนแบบเล่าให้ฟังว่าสนุกแบบได้ความรู้ก็
My friends joined this program before I did, and they asked me to join them, so I got a chance to learn. I've been coming to this program for 3 to 4 months. I'm gained knowledge regarding sexual intercourse. I learned how to protect myself. I have information I can share with my friends. It is an exchange of knowledge.
The United Nations Population Fund, known as UNFPA, is also involved in reproductive health training. This multilateral agency is mandated to provide family planning and reproductive health care. And yet, George W. Bush announced that he would withhold the $34 million contribution approved by Congress for the 2002 fiscal year. It was expected that these cuts would result in 2 million unwanted pregnancies, 800,000 induced abortions, 4,700 maternal deaths, and the death of 77,000 children.
We have two sub-programs. One is called reproductive health, and the other one is called population and development strategies. But I understand that you are interested in reproductive health, so I will focus my presentation on reproductive health.
Now that in Thailand, where many more organizations are focusing on youth, probably the most vulnerable population.
One of the best things that ever happened to Thai efforts in population control is Senator Meet Thai. The senator is a popular figure in the fight against AIDS, an advocate for reproductive rights, and a founder and chairman of the Population and Community Development. More than 3 decades ago, the senator made the promotion of condom use a personal campaign. Credited with a 4% drop in Thai fertility rates, his efforts include condom events, a best-selling biography, and restaurant franchise promoting condom use.
This restaurant is called Cabbages and Condoms. We guarantee our food not to cause pregnancy, and we give condoms after the meal. We have many, many dishes such as the condom salad. But sex education, what do you think should be taught? What do you want to know? When to say yes and how to say no. And the girls usually are the ones who say, look, my experience with friends and me has been like this and so on. And it's very much a kids oriented, originated curriculum.
We work with and for Hill tribe population in the northern part of the country. We've trained community leaders, Hill tribe youth, to be able to disseminate knowledge to the people in the community.
ก็ที่เพิ่งมาเข้าร่วมกิจกรรมของสมาคมแห่งประเทศไทยก็
I have just participated in PPAS activity for youth in school for the first time. Oh, they encourage teenagers to plan before having sex. We should take time to think before deciding to have sex. And the problem is, teenagers have sex when they are too young. I think having sex when they are too young is not good.
มีเพศสัมพันธ์ก่อนวัยนี่แบบไม่ดีอย่างนี้
Well, actually, this is the first time that I have attended this program.
ตรงนี้ก็เป็นครั้งแรกครับที่ได้มาทำในโรงเรียนมีประโยชน์มากเลยครับเพราะว่าจะทำให้พวกเราเนี่ยรู้จักกันวางแผนแล้วก็
This is a good program. It makes us all learn about important topics such as how to live your life with your wife and even a friend, such as a girlfriend. It is very important. We learn how to think beforehand about the future and the consequences of what we actually do today.
จากวันนี้เหรอครับก็ได้เรียนรู้เกี่ยวกับการ
Today I have learned many useful things. I have learned that before having sex, one should always have a condom ready and use it as well. They actually help prevent people from diseases and help prevent people from pregnancies as well.
Thailand has always had strong religious traditions. Most of the population is Buddhist, with 5 to 7% of the Muslim faith, and a small percentage of other religions. Buddhism has an impact on Thai culture and attitudes towards family planning and sexual behavior.
One thing I'm curious about is the connection. You mentioned that the monks and the Buddhist teachings are supportive of family planning. Would it happen that you can utilize the support? Where do the monks and where does traditional Buddhism fall in terms of abortion?
Buddhism supported family planning, but Buddhist practices really
very good exercise because of the Lord Buddha says some 2,548 years ago, plus 40 in his teaching time. He said there are four major suffering. One is to give birth is suffering. To get old is suffering. To get sick is suffering. And death is also great suffering.
คือการวางแผน
Family planning through the beliefs of Buddhism. The Buddha himself has already set a code. He has set a code of conduct with a list of rules that one must always be sure to follow. Abstinence is definitely included in this code of conduct. A male and a female who are both single are not allowed to have sex. This is similar to the monk's life because monks are also not allowed to have any sex.
Thailand is having frank and open discussions about reproductive health policies. The government is considering expanding abortion rights. But Thailand's NGOs and its governments are in agreement on one of the world's most basic human rights, the right to plan one's own family. Thailand is working to build on its family planning successes and to create a safe and free environment for the next generation.
And the way that you go about recruiting them for this, I mean, what are some of the bigger campaigns that can work?
We would like to be very much involved and get to everybody whose life can be made happier and safer.
อ๋อถ้าผมเรียนจากที่นี่ไป
I have come here and learned things. When I go and meet with my friends who did not attend this program, I will be sure to tell them what I have learned here. Thank you.
I would like my friends from many other places to come here. Some who come to the training today are new. They have never been to the training before. I want to bring more new people so that they too can receive the right to knowledge.
So the support for the work to implement this kind of information dissemination of sexual reproductive health and rights, and also the services are really needed. If there are some words greater than thank you for all those who supported for these people, these very poor people, these disadvantaged people, I would try to say it. But the only thing I can say it now. Thank you very much.
The Thai people have put reproductive health funding to good use in the past and will in the future. Amazingly, Thailand has lowered its fertility rate to 1.7%. Yet the youth and refugee population continue to grow. There are 1 million Thais infected with AIDS and more than 700,000 people unaware of their HIV status. The people of Thailand and its NGOs have a tremendous struggle ahead of them. Sadly, advances in reproductive health are threatened by funding shortfalls and U.S.-influenced restrictions.
Just don't give up. Just don't give up. And if you want to give up, go and work for Coca-Cola and Heineken. No, really. You got to enjoy what you're doing. Fight for it, yeah.